Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, please. And agenda item 2.1, adoption of the agenda for the May 10th, 2016 regular meeting of council. Torgerson and Reimer. Yes, councillor?
I prepared a report on that mitigating the risks of conflict and interest, fraud and corruption unintended.
So
do you want to fit that into the agenda rather than into my report? Because I've got the report for NCLGA is in my...
Okay. All right, so you want to amend the agenda to include that report.
Wherever you want to fit it in.
Okay. So the motion still stands to adopt the agenda for the May 10th, 2016 regular meeting of council as amended. Okay?
There's one spelling correction. Seeing that my member opposite is absent.
Okay.
It's the only one I caught.
Okay.
8-4.
8-4.
Village endorsement to BC Liquor Control. The T is missing.
Oh, yes.
What page?
Page 3, agenda item 8.4 in the minutes.
All right.
It's as far as I read.
That's...
I wouldn't say that out loud.
8.4.
No, we're still at 2.1. I haven't taken did I take a vote on? No. Okay, all in favor, please, of adopting the agenda as amended. Carried. Now, agenda item 3.1, adoption of the minutes of the April 26th, 2016 regular meeting of council.
There's a call to order, there's no time.
Where?
In the call to order, in the previous minutes.
Oh. Okay.
And if you don't mind, for the sake of my minute taking.
We started at 7 probably.
At 7, right?
Yes.
But for clarity, when you're adopting acceptance of the minutes as amended, is that a motion? Who moved it?
Nice.
It was Torgerson. It was Councillor Torgerson who moved it.
Okay.
Okay.
And seconded by?
Reimer and Blanchette.
Okay,
They
thank
both
you.
put their hands up, so
Thank you.
take your pick.
Okay.
I guess the secretary, you've never been.
No, I've been lucky. You guys are fast, you don't realize it.
Okay.
Or I'm slow, whichever the case is. Maybe a little bit of both.
We like to keep our meetings efficient and running quickly. Okay, so we are back to agenda item 3.1, adoption of the minutes of the April 26, 2016 regular meeting of council. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Okay, Torgerson and Blanchette. And now, are there any errors or omissions, Councillor Reimer? Yes.
Yeah, the call to order.
Okay.
The time is missing from the call to order.
Okay, and that would have been at 7 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
Okay, gavel goes at 7. And then there was that spelling error.
That's in today's.
Oh, that's in this one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is what happens when we don't have a corporate secretary right here to point these things out. All right, are there any errors or omissions other than the time? No? Hearing none? All in favor? Carried. Agenda item 5.1, reporting out from the special in-camera council meeting of December 10, 2015. And it was moved, seconded, and carried that council considers with input from staff the proposed strategic plans listed in the report and endorses the strategic priorities as amended. And there's also resolution 5415. So I don't think we require any motion to receive it. This is just reporting out. 6.1, Canoe Valley Community Association request for use of village property. And we have a recommendation that council considers the request to use village public spaces, subject to the Canoe Valley Community Association meeting the necessary insurance requirements for use of village property. Could I have a motion, please? Okay, Blanchette and Torgerson. And is there any discussion on this? Any questions or comments? Oh, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. 6.2, Regional District of Fraser Fort George, Robson Valley Region Economic Development and Marketing Program. And the recommendation that council appoints nominees for the Robson Valley Region Steering Committee consisting of. And with council's approval, I'm offering to represent council for just the steering committee because I've been a member of this Robson Valley Economic and Marketing Committee for the last year and a half.
I'll move that.
You'll move that? Okay, and you'll second that. All right. And I'm just going to stay until our work is done. Okay. And they also would like the village's chief administrative officer and the economic development officer.
I'll endorse that in that motion.
Okay. And seconded by Councillor Blanchette. So have you got that down?
Yeah, I do.
Yep. Torgerson and Blanchette.
Yes.
Okay, is there any discussion on this? Oh, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Agenda item. What was that?
Pac-Man.
Agenda item 8.0. Sorry, is there anything that council wishes to bring forward from the reading file? Yes, councillor.
I'm extremely pleased with the BC Emergency Health Services and the community paramedics. It's going to be a service well received.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, good. 8.1. Motion, please, regarding the appointment of bylaw enforcement officer and inclusion in Municipal Insurance Association coverage. One, that council appoints Chris Dolbeck as the bylaw enforcement officer and adds Chris Dolbeck as an additional named insured under the village's liability insurance policy. Blanchette and Reimer. Is there any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Agenda item 8.2, and this is final consideration of
Excuse me.
the recommendation is that council authorizes staff to issue development variance permit 0116 for the property located at 1454 8th Place, legally described as, and the legal description is there, in order to vary the following regulations, the single-family residential schedule of the Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 610/2007 as amended. Now, does council wish me to read all those out? Yes, Councillor Torgerson.
I will move 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. And seconded by Councillor Reimer. So that was moved by Councillor Torgerson and seconded by Councillor Reimer.
I got it.
Okay. That agenda items 1, 2, 3, and 4 with respect to the development variance permit final consideration be approved. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any discussion? Councillor Torgerson.
Your Worship, just a question for Mr. Administrator. Were there any letters received from adjacent property owners that you're aware of?
None.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Agenda item 8.3, remedial action, 1375 7th Avenue. Recommendation that council direct staff to send a letter by registered mail to the property owner, giving the property owner 30 days to apply for a permit from the Village of Valemount to demolish the structure and properly dispose of all materials resulting from the demolition. Failure to do so may result in the Village of Valemount proceeding with remedial action. What is council's wish? Councillor Blanchette and Councillor Torgerson approve the recommendation. Mm-hmm. Okay, any questions or discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. We're just giving you an extra few seconds here to
Thank you.
catch up. Okay. 8.4, Three Ranges Brewery, Village of Endorsement to the BC Liquor Control and Licensing Branch. Recommendation that council endorse Three Ranges Brewing is it brewing or brewery? Company's request for a liquor license amendment to increase occupancy load inside by 19 with no further action. Councillor Blanchette and Councillor Reimer. And is there any discussion on this? Yes, Councillor Blanchette.
I'd just like to congratulate them because it's really great. They're doing so well that they need to expand. I think that's great for our little village.
Yes. Any comments? No? Hearing none? All right, no comments? All in favor? Carried. Agenda item 9.1, the monthly staff report for April 2016. Recommendation that council accepts the April 2016 staff report for information purposes. Blanchette and Torgerson. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Agenda item 10.1, Village of Valemount 5-year financial plan bylaw number 754, 2016. And the recommendation is to approve fourth and final reading of the 5-year financial plan bylaw number 754, 2016, or rescind prior resolution providing third reading and reapproves third reading of the 5-year financial plan bylaw number 754, 2016 with amendments as presented by council. Torgerson and Reimer, and the amendments, please. Yes. Councillor Reimer?
Do we have an item in the budget for maintenance of our infrastructure buildings?
There are, I think, one or more items for maintenance in the budget at this point in time. Our finance officer is here and she can speak to that more directly, Peter.
Currently, there's minor maintenance funds available. And this year, Public Works Superintendent and staff are going to be looking at every building and doing a detailed list of regular maintenance and any major maintenance for next year's budgets to be considered. So it's basic minor maintenance for every building this year.
Okay. Oh, you're saying next year's budget. You mean 2016 or 2017?
2017, we're looking at all of our municipal infrastructure, and we'll have a detailed list of the major maintenance that has to be included on those.
Councillor Reimer, you had a question?
So a follow-up question to that, if we don't have sufficient in our budget this year, and there are buildings that need attention right now, do those wait?
Well, I think the option 2 here presents, where's the second recommendation? Rescinds prior resolution, the third reading, and reapproves it with amendments, I believe, that the finance office wants to make with respect to a recommended tax adjustment, and as well there's the, I believe, $10,000 increment for building repairs. In particular, it's noted that the museum and perhaps the library may need those funds. Mm-hmm. And that's going to require rescinding and amending. And then a quick special meeting. Is that correct, Laurie? That's how you understand it proceeds?
Correct. Any funds would have to come through surplus though, because the tax rates will already be reading tonight.
Now, I did look at the budget, and I'm not convinced that this year there's much room to add more than that with the scrutiny that Laurie has gone through. With, you know, it's reasonably healthy, but it's, I don't, go ahead.
I believe Councillor Blanchette.
Can we afford to put $5,000 away for each building that the village owns this year in preparation for fixing that needs to be done?
That'll be about a $50,000 increase into the budget coming from surplus then.
At 50,000?
How's that work?
If you look at all
For 2 5s? That's only 2,000.
For all buildings.
Oh, for all buildings. Oh,
But if we
okay.
just do the museum and the library, designated for them, it was looking at making 10,000 accessible, and if it's unused to be carried forward, I think with some.
We own more buildings than just 2. Right?
The discussions were specifically for the library and the museum, specifically.
Yeah. But I just wanted to know
For
if we
next
could
year.
afford to
For-
start our savings account now, so that
Yeah.
next year, when there's work to be done, we've already got $5,000 in each
Okay.
pot for each building that needs work.
Okay.
And I think that's at the root of what Councillor Reimer originally brought up, in terms of not just looking at one or two buildings, but we've got the point where the museum had needs last year for repairs which weren't fully met, and they've requested, and there are buildings and they need to be retained. It's not a huge amount. I mean, they're talking, there's some rotten boards on the exterior. They have lap boards. Some are rotten through and they need to be painted. And the windows, the caulking's out in places, and that needs to be replaced. And then there's some shingles that they have that have to be, shakes that have to be installed in the dormer above. And to do that, it costs there's some paint and materials and some labor. And it'd be nice to be able to do that. We're trying to find external funds rather. And if we do, then we won't have to tap our own internal budget. But what I was hoping to do was, given that it wasn't accounted for in the budget, to create a little wiggle room for this year to get that done. Then the broader issue of all the buildings, and using the same approach, it's too late in the planning process. That's my perspective, although you could delay and you could hold this year's budget to a more scrutiny, but it doesn't seem to have room to expand it beyond that small amount. But if you're going to consider it for the following year, it would give more advanced financial planning to be able to accommodate that, is what I feel. And I think Laurie's nodding her head. She agrees with that.
Okay. Okay, I have a question, Ms. Macneill. And first of all, the library and the museum, the budgeted amounts are $2,000 every year, correct?
Correct.
So this year for the library, $237 was used, which leaves $1,763 unused. And the museum, $692 was used, which leaves $1,308. Now, if $2,000 is being budgeted for each one for 2016, could we not add 3 to each? And that would just mean $6,000 coming out of surplus?
Currently, there's $2,000 budgeted for each.
That's correct. And so to make it $5,000,
You increase
it'd
it
be
by 3.
3,000 and 3,000, which would mean 6,000 coming out of surplus.
Correct.
That's
Now-
better than 10.
It's better than 10, and how does that meet with council's approval?
That's a good start, please.
Councillor Reimer?
I would make the motion that we rescind the prior resolution providing third reading and reapprove third reading of the 5-year financial plan bylaw 754-2016 with the amendment that we budget up to $5,000
A total of 5 each.
each.
With those amounts coming from surplus?
Yes.
Meaning if there's already 2 allotted, so if it's a total of
That's
5
right.
each,
That's
then
what I
the
said.
incremental's
6.
3, yeah.
6, yes,
Yeah.
coming out of surplus. Okay. Does that sit a little bit better with you, Ms. Macneill?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's seconded by Councillor Blanchette.
Okay, hang on.
We
Moved
have-
by.
Okay.
Okay,
Reimer,
good.
and seconded by Blanchette.
Thank you.
That let me find it now.
That's the second option.
That's right. That council rescinds prior resolution providing third reading and reapproves third reading of the 5-year financial plan bylaw, number 754, with amendments as presented by council, and that's adding $3,000 to library repairs and maintenance and $3,000 to museum, which will make $5,000 each. Thank you, councillors. Okay. Okay, any more discussion? Clear?
That's good.
All right, all in favor? Carried. Agenda item 10.2, Village of Valemount Tax Rate Bylaw number 755. Recommendation that council rescinds prior resolution providing first, second, and third reading and reapproves first, second, and third reading of tax rate bylaw 755, 2016 as amended, and schedules the meeting in order to approve fourth reading of the bylaw prior to the May 15 statutory deadline. Okay, so Councillor Blanchette and Councillor Reimer. And council, either you can establish a date now or after the council meeting talk with Ms. Macneill and
I think we decided Thursday morning,
Thursday morning? Okay.
What time?
9:30, 10 o'clock? What works for you?
9:30 is better.
Okay, how about 9:30?
9:30?
Councillor Saul's just about to hit the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
And if necessary,
Councillor Reimer can join in
I'll
by
Skype in.
Skype. Okay? Okay. Is there any discussion on this? You have all that down?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All in favor then? Carried. Council reports. Councillor Torgerson, I'll start with you. We'll go backwards this time.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. Since we were here last, I had a tourism meeting on May the 3rd. I had a direct heat use geothermal meeting on Thursday the 5th. And yesterday I had a board meeting of the Valemount Community Forest, and I sit here before you today, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. And you can always repeat that for the CAOs.
Meetings attended.
Oh.
Tourism meeting, May 3rd, direct heat use
Oh,
meeting,
wow.
May 5th, and yesterday, VCFC meeting.
Okay.
I've got the shorthand going here, I learned it.
Good for you. Good for you. You're a fast learner then.
Okay.
I went slow.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Torgerson. Councillor Reimer.
thank you, and Mayor. Before I get into my report, there was breaking news today that the New Brunswick-based Canadian Cable Systems Alliance was pleased to announce a shortlisted nominees for their Tuned in Canada Awards, which is a national celebration of excellence in communication, service delivery, community mindedness, and community channel content development. And the best customer service story, Valemount Entertainment Society got shortlisted for the Access to Canada Winter Games content, and for the best community channel programming on entertainment, the Valemount Entertainment Society Discover Valemount got shortlisted.
Good deal.
And there's 4 in each of the categories that were nominated.
Did the Chetwynd TV make the list at all? Make the list?
I'm looking at I don't see it.
Don't see, okay. Well, Mr. Peters is here, the station manager. Congratulations, Mr. Peters. That's very good work to you and your helpers. And thank you to Councillor Reimer, who's council's appointee to your board, for bringing that to our attention.
I cleared it with the boss.
Yes?
Seeing that he's in control of the camera.
Okay,
Okay,
just to make sure that I've got this concisely. And I have breaking news referenced.
Councillor
Okay,
Reimer's
thank
going
you.
to give you a copy and make it
Thank
easy
you
for
very
you.
much. Okay, good. And can I retain this?
Yes.
Awesome.
Congratulations again. We're real proud of you. Okay. Sometimes I'll tell you about the heat that the Area H director and I took in 1992 to get this. It's a story on its own. So thank you, Councillor Reimer. Okay.
Okay. So yesterday, May 9th, Valemount Community Forest meetings, and we're on the positive side of the ledger for the first quarter of the year, and we're working on opportunities for continued growth in the forestry-related side of our economy. Tuesday, May 3rd, attended the Valemount Historical Society meeting, and Wednesday, May 4th to Friday, May 6th, NCLGA meetings in Dawson Creek. NCLGA meaning North Central Local Government Association meetings, which incorporates everything from Down south on Highway 97 as far as 100 Mile House, our area to the east, Haida Gwaii to the west, Fort Nelson to the north.
And Stewart as well, Stewart, BC.
Well, that's in BC. That's further, Haida Gwaii is further west than Stewart.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
But Stewart is just about to the Yukon border, isn't it, or Alaska border?
Alaska.
Alaska border. Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, until there's a wall built there. But, sorry. So I wanted to marry these latter two meetings in a few minutes, not because they happen in the same week, but because there's an interesting overlap in one of the sessions from NCLGA meetings. The first meeting that I attended at this year's NCLGA meeting was the 2016 AGM of the Northern Medical Programs Trust. This trust is a partnership of Northern Communities and the University of Northern British Columbia, which was established in 2002. That is the trust. It aims to increase the number of healthcare professionals practicing in the North by supporting educational programs and experiences that provide students with exposure to Northern communities and rural practice. And we, as a community, contribute financially to this trust, and we benefit from this through the provision of, for example, weekend and week-long opportunities that introduce first and second year students to rural practice when the students come and shadow our doctors in their day-to-day activity. And in addition, there are individual grants and scholarships provided for those students who may otherwise not be able to afford the cost of this education, regardless of who they might be or what their background is. And I have copied the student essays which describe some of the experiences of the students, and two of the students that attended here in our community last October have provided a summary of their experience. And there's a copy of the whole ream of student essays, which I'll make available if you're interested in reading. Very interesting. Actually, if I quickly go and look at one, if we have this was one of the ones from last October 16th to the 18th. Take this into context. Weekend shadowing was an absolute blast. Okay. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity. We were shadowing the ER and clinic in Valemount and got a chance to do IVs, make a cast, do ultrasound imaging, suturing, and perform slit lamp exams. I feel like we got a chance to feel what the day in life of a rural physician is like and the lifestyle that goes along with being a rural physician. After this experience, I'm now beginning to understand how competent a rural physician has to be, as they have to provide care to a community with not a lot of support in an emergency type setting. So, sounds like that was a busy weekend.
Yes.
Hope it was nobody here that was on the casualty list. So this year's NCLGA theme was prosperity through partnerships. And besides the reports from Municipal Finance Authority, MIA, NDIT, sessions this year included a panel discussion on boom and bust growing pains, First Nations, building partnerships, the state of forestry, future of agriculture, and a discussion on the use and security of water, which I kind of felt was a little bit watered down, but
Pardon the pun?
Yeah.
But the comments that I did find challenging and motivating, specifically related to how we as a council can be better, came out of the boom and bust growing pains session. And these are just some excerpts that I kind of wrote down. During boom times or good times, we manage to make things good for after the bust. In other words, we don't spend like crazy just because times are good. We balance so that when times may not be so good, we're in a situation where we don't have to cut services or increase taxes. We need to understand our own situation and work towards finding the sweet spot, which may always be something that is a fluid thing. We are not a job-creating business as a village. So the encouragement there is to be nimble, to be lean. And people, surprisingly, are our customers. And we treat them like customers. Try not to be like government. If people leave our village office confused, overwhelmed, then we haven't done our job. And the classical KISS formula, keep it simple. And we all of us, all communities face the same issues in one way or another. And the more that we can learn and draw on the resources of the others and mistakes of the others so we don't make them, the positive things from others tweak to our situation, the better we'll be. Now, forgive my long-windedness, but this is, I think, kind of interesting. Dr. Charles Helm is a South African-born family physician, and who kind of relate. We have 3 of them here in Valemount. He's also an author who has lived in Tumbler Ridge for the last 25 years. He's a founder and member of the Wolverine Nordic and Mountain Society and has helped design, build, and maintain over 100 kilometers of trails to geological attractions. He is a founder, member, and current vice president of the Tumbler Ridge Museum Foundation and has made numerous dinosaur trackway and vertebrate paleontological discoveries. He is a past president of the Tumbler Ridge UNESCO Global Geopark, which is the 2nd UNESCO Global Geopark in North America and the 1st in the West. And the books he's written feature the natural history of Tumbler Ridge, hiking guides, Northern BC history, and a kid's book on dinosaurs. And he was our guest speaker, or he was our speaker, during the Thursday lunch session. And I couldn't help but be caught up in his enthusiasm as he walked us through the process and the highs and lows of the experiences of receiving UNESCO designation for their geopark, as he showed us over 200 pictures detailing various parts of this adventure and many discoveries that they've made locally. Now, I'm not suggesting that we rush out and try to find dinosaur footprints in our area or even make some world-startling discovery in order to put Valemount on the map in the same sense. However, I wanted to say this. For too long, we've neglected or underestimated, at the very least, the powerful attraction that our museum could be in our community. After all, Tumbler Ridge was built in the lifetime of a lot of us that are here, and not for its historical value. It had coal, and when coal demand went dead, a lot of people thought Tumbler Ridge would die. Far from it. Who would have guessed that a family doctor would lead the way to an economic engine which could see thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of visitors coming to Tumbler Ridge just to see this thing. So, for too long, I think we've neglected the little bit of history that we have here in our area and haven't even maintained our museum building properly. And yet the cultural history that is here is every bit as vital and important and deserves to be taught, remembered, and preserved for the world to see. So I would like to see the continuation of the small effort we've begun and make sure that there are sufficient funds in our Historical Society coffers to have a well-maintained and functioning museum building facility that enhances our community. And I know there are a lot of things happening on Canada Day this year, one of them being activities planned at the museum. And there is an urgent need for at least 6 to 8 volunteers to help with the chili lunch and some of the other activities. And for more information, please contact Sue Marco or the board chair of the Historical Society, Linda Blackman, in the next few days, because without people, nothing is going to happen, and there's a very real possibility, if there aren't enough people helping, that those activities will be canceled. That, Madam Mayor, is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Reimer. And yes, it was absolutely fascinating what that doctor from South Africa that's been in Tubbler Ridge for some time, his contributions. And we have 3 here, and I just thought we should approach them and see what they can do. And also the boom, well, I'm thinking of David Baxter's book, Boom, Bust and Echo. That too is appreciated, and that's why it has always been a very serious philosophy that the village have reserved monies in every one of its accounts. Sewer, water, and general. Yeah, so thank you. Okay, Councillor Blanchette.
Mine won't be as long as yours. I took some time off, and so I've only attended 2 meetings this week, the Child, Youth and Mental Health and the Community Rec Center meetings. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Just prior to the NCLGA in Fort St. John, BC, there was a mayor's caucus, and mayors came from all over British Columbia. It was certainly an interesting time and interesting discussions behind closed doors. And the one issue that I can bring forward is the fact that agricultural lands are being purchased by international corporations who are then using the agricultural land for carbon credit purpose to plant trees. And that land would be far better valuable as to grow food, rather than trees that will then be left there for 100 years for them to get their carbon credits. So I made a motion to take it forward to invite our minister and meet with him at UBCM, the Mayor's Caucus. There will be even more mayors there at that time. Also, as part of the Mayor's Caucus, we were to go on to the Northern Alberta, Fort McMurray area for a tour of the tar sands. But the night before we were to leave on Wednesday morning at 6, it was cancelled because of the fires. And I spent we had a presentation by the executive of the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers. And we were in a teleconference call with the province of Alberta with the Ministry of Energy. And here's an interesting fact. In 2007, Alberta introduced the first greenhouse gas emissions reduction policy in North America. And yet, through a foundation here in Canada, they are bringing celebrities like movie stars and rock stars, and all they're doing is criticizing Northern Alberta, and they don't know the facts. So after spending a few hours with them, I did say that I would be interested in one of them coming and making a presentation to council, perhaps this fall sometime. I think there are a lot of interesting facts there, and the fact that they contribute $8 billion a year to the federal coffers. Just from the corporations. That doesn't include all of the income taxes that are paid, as well as the economic generations that take place in a municipality by having all those employees there. So $8 billion, and for criticizing the tar sands, they're also affecting the revenue of the federal government and provincial governments that goes for education and healthcare and welfare payments, etc., etc. And so, as I say, they are very concerned with environmental policies, and they produced here interesting information on economy and environment. And it was interesting, as I say, to find out that Alberta introduced the first GHG emission reduction policy in North America. So I'm looking forward to having them come here. With respect to the Fort McMurray fires, at the registration desk, they did have a glass jug And I'm very proud to say that the convention delegates contributed $3,750 for the Red Cross, and of course the federal government matches it, so we contributed $7,500 to the Red Cross. Laurie Ann Rudenberg, she's councillor from, I'll give you the spelling after. She is a City of Quesnel councillor, and she is the new president of the NCLGA. And we did have several cabinet ministers there, and the very timely presentation by John Rustad, Minister of Aboriginal Affairs, and he is from the Prince George Omineeka riding. He was the one who made an excellent presentation as well on the updates to treaty negotiations affecting us all. Now, with respect to the Councillor Reimer's comments about history and the significance of it, and for those travelers who are interested in history, let's not forget that we have that the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association was named after Pierre Bostonnet, who was an Iroquois with blonde hair, and they were fur traders at Tijon. And so even mountains in Mount Robson Park were renamed the Yellowhead Mountain. And the Yellowhead Highway, that's how it got its name, Tete Jean, from the blonde-haired Iroquois, Pierre Bostonnet. And I think that should be expanded upon and brought into the museum as well. And I know that former Councillor Joan Nordley has a lot of information on the Tijon area and the construction of the Yellowhead Highway. So it was a busy time for the councillors who did not attend. I brought a copy of the report, the resolutions, as well as the deliberations and the way that they were voted upon, okay, whether they were carried or opposed. And I think that's it. Thank you. So I would like a motion, please, that council receives the verbal reports provided. Blanchette and Torgerson. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. 13.1, outstanding council resolutions. Yes.
So this is new business?
Oh, there was nothing here for new business. Sorry. That's your report. Yeah.
So, I'm going to do everything at once.
Okay.
After this, I'm quiet. Next council meetings. So, as you recall, on February 19th, I attended a conflict of interest seminar in Vancouver, and I believe Councillor Torgerson attended it here, on mitigating the risks of conflict of interest, fraud, and corruption. For some reason, there is a presumptive perception that when we are involved in businesses that involve people and money, or people and property, that we walk into situations where there's a conflict of interest. And it's probably not so much that there's a conflict, so much as the idea that the conflict is managed either to the well-being or detriment of one or the other parties to the exclusion of the other. So conflict of interest guidelines are part of the community charter, and it is interesting that as of April the 14th, 2016, our provincial government, by whose blessing we exist as a local government, modified the conflict of interest legislation in our community charter so that if we are in council meetings that deal with financial interests of a community organization that we are appointed to or that we are members of, we are no longer considered to be in conflict of interest and can make decisions freely, no longer having to recuse ourselves. While a number of lawyers, especially in the bigger centers, perhaps see this as an erosion in the long-standing principle that no man or woman can serve two masters. That is a duty we have to the public and the duty we have to the society. We are members of such. The Salt Spring Island situation a few years ago would not have happened if that would have been in place. So this relaxation of conflict of interest legislation actually is directly attributable to our own NCLGA, because they went and lobbied for it. Now, while the historical application may work in the bigger cities, where you only kind of wear one hat at a time, the problems that happen in the rural areas such as ours is where we have a hard time finding enough people who are willing to volunteer their time to participate in local community organizations. So this recognizes at least the dilemma and addresses it to some extent. And I say that it is to some extent because, in my opinion, which may differ from others, it does not alter the fundamental principle of not serving two masters, but it recognizes that in a smaller community, the community itself becomes the master. Whether that is through council, Varda, Community Forest, Historical Society, Chamber of Commerce, or Library Society, and all of which we feel have some need to play, and it gives us a chance to be a community with more than just a local presence. It gives us a chance to be a presence outside of our region, province, country, and the world, that we have these other organizations. The keynote speaker at this seminar was a lady by the name of Sonia LaBelle, who, surprisingly, how young she was, and became by default, I think because nobody else wanted it, or maybe had the guts to, she became the chief prosecutor of the Charbonneau Commission, which dealt with corruption in local Quebec politics. And she made some interesting observation right from the start, which really have to be thought about, because on the surface, I might tend to be quick to judge people and their motives. But in reality, it's like the proverbial pot of boiling water. You would not deliberately step into a pot of boiling water, but if you step into a pot of cold water and heat the water up, eventually you get used to the temperature. And mitigating the risks kind of starts by recognizing that things do not happen kind of blatantly most of the time. A lot of life happens in gray areas, and it starts with a paper cup. And I thought that was an intriguing example. Accepting a cup of coffee that I should not be accepting. Because what happened in Quebec was a culture of business and politics that had evolved from something simple into something so entrenched that in their culture, the politics of assisting business and business assisting politics, and no one seemed to know where the lines were. So what did I learn? I made 10 points of what I kind of took out of this whole thing to mitigate conflict of interest problems and fraud and corruption. Number one, I think probably the most important, have a personal ethical standard that no one can find fault with. Number two, have a well-defined procedural bylaw. Have clear policies in place. Number four, do not act in secrecy. Be transparent in meetings. Now, for some of us, that's perhaps a little bit more challenging if we've never done this before. We need to learn to be more open in public and not be afraid of being judged for our thoughts or comments just because they will be different from what other people think. If we were all the same here in this room, there wouldn't be need for 5 of us to be here. And if we want transparent meetings, then I would suggest that the press and the public also need to grant each one of us the grace to have a diversity of opinion. And sometimes we learn by listening to others, which is kind of amazing sometimes. So corruption is basically any use of authority that damages public interest. It's kind of an interesting, I always associate corruption with mobster stuff like that. No, it's anything, any abuse of authority where public interest is at risk. I'm going to say keep the reason for being here front and center. Why are we all here? To achieve a quality of life that is vibrant, safe, healthy, active, and sustainable. That's why we're here. Deliver essential and necessary services that promote community well-being. Treat all people equally. And be mindful of the relationships that we build so that we're not being influenced in any one direction. And the same proverbial KISS formula, live by our principles.
Thank you, Councillor, and I would ask that copies be provided for all of Council. And I wasn't going to mention this, but one thing that was brought up at the Mayor's Caucus, and it was by a well-known law firm from Vancouver specializing in municipal law. And there are some municipalities throughout this province, not just this province, sorry, not this province, in Canada, that have integrity commissioners appointed, okay? And that is not just to deal with individual councillors or mayors, but also, and he did point this out, it really changed what people have been accustomed to over the years. It changed in 2011. And the lawyer did ask us if any of us had any idea what initiated the change. Of course, none of us knew, and there was a room full of lawyers from all over, mayors from all over the province. And he said it was social media. And so integrity commissioners are now being appointed, and they pursue it. And I don't know if there are any financial compensations, but certainly they do get public apologies for mistreatment. And if somebody came to a council meeting, and if I treated them or spoke to them with disrespect and insulted them, as has happened in previous years, that person could go to the integrity commissioner over it. So there again, ethics is always in a priority position as far as I'm concerned. But it's too bad that our society has come to the place now where integrity commissioners are being appointed. Yeah. So, but if we could all have a copy of that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, Councillor. Okay.
Your Worship, may
Yes.
I speak to that?
Certainly.
That same case law was brought up, the Schlenker decision over the Islands Trust. And basically it came down to the duties of loyalty. Mm-hmm. And so in this particular case, it was the duties of loyalty versus personal financial gain. And the takeaway from this is that if you're sitting on a board that you're approved, you're appointed by council, then your duty is to that board, as well as to masters, the municipality as well, or regional district, or whatever level of government that has appointed you to that board, and is now a case law.
So, good. Well, I really appreciated that report, and I'm sure Councillor Blanchette, you did too, and we would all like copies of it. Thank you very much. So we will know more after UBCM and the Mayor's Caucus there with respect to the appointment of integrity commissioners. So a motion please to receive Councillor Reimer's reports, Blanchette and Torgerson. Any further comments or discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Did you have something you wanted to?
I lapsed for a minute. Who moved and who seconded?
Blanchette and Torgerson.
Okay.
BT.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Better than TV.
I thought that, that's why. Okay, list of outstanding previous council resolutions, 13.1. Recommendation that council accepts the list of outstanding previous council resolutions, and I'll take a motion, please. Blanchette and Reimer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Public comment. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on items considered by council as part of the approved agenda this evening? Okay. Agenda item 16.1, notice to proceed to in-camera meeting. Recommendation that council proceed to an in-camera council meeting for consideration of one item per section 91C of the community charter to discuss matters related to labor relations or other employee relations. Motion, please. Okay, Torgerson and Blanchette. All in favor? Carried.